Everybody has a story. It is time for you to tell yours. Hi, Linda Hughes here to give you 6 easy breezy steps for writing your memoir. These steps come from our book, Memoir Magic, and we also have a memoir coloring journal that give you more details. But if you've clicked on this program, that means you have already thought about writing your memoir. Maybe you've even started writing your memoir. And I'm so glad that you're doing that. As Thomas O'Crohan said, there will never be another you. The likes of us will never be here again. And so writing your memoir is a wonderful thing for you to do. The first step is to discover your purpose. Why is it that you want to do this? We've helped hundreds of people write their stories, and they've told us everything from they get a sense of satisfaction. It's just a great deal of fun. Of course, a lot of people want to leave a legacy for the family. It's great for writing experience. If you're a beginning writer, there's no better way to start than with what you know best. You might just want to publish a book. It offers self-awareness, but over and over, people tell us that healing and closure is what they got most out of writing their own memoir. We've worked with students and workshop attendees and other writers and even friends and family members as they write their stories. And we hear this over and over. I helped Myra Lewis Williams write her memoir, The Spark That Survived. Many years ago, she wrote Great Balls of Fire, and that was made into a movie. And Myra is the second cousin and was the child bride of the legendary rock and roller Jerry Lee Lewis. And so, as you can well imagine, she had quite a story to tell. And so often the story had been told in someone else's terms. She wanted this to be in her own voice. And here's how she put it. Writing a memoir is like slapping your past onto a piece of paper, wrestling it to the ground, coming up in victory, and then giving it away. It's no longer a battle in your life. You've won. It's over. You can move on. So the first thing you want to do is become clear about your purpose in writing. And you may have a number of purposes, but get clear about that because that will set the tone for your entire story. The next thing you want to do is explore good storytelling. Now, just because you've lived this doesn't mean that it's automatically a compelling story. We have what we call the narrative arc, and this is my crude rendition here, but you'll get the idea. If you look at the classics, look at your favorite books, look at your favorite movies, you'll see that the good ones all follow this narrative arc. Your story begins, and very early on it has a hook of some kind. It has something that grabs the reader and pulls them in. And then you go on with the story, life's ups and downs, until it reaches a peak, the main point of your story, and then it wraps up very nicely. Notice the little blue line on the bottom there. The beginning of your story should always connect to the end. You tell people what you're going to tell them in the beginning, and at the end you say, see, I told you, this is what it was going to be about. So good storytelling is not flat. Keep that picture in your mind of the narrative arc and the ups and the downs and the peak and wrapping it up. If you tell flat facts, that's boring. It's even going to be boring for you to write. So if you start your story with, I was born in this place on this date, and then I went to kindergarten, and then I went to third grade, I went to fifth grade, I promise you, no one wants to read that. We've all been through that. That's not compelling. And so you need to pick out, what's my purpose? What am I doing here? What's the main point? Put that up front, and then you use what we call backstory to fill in as you go along. So know the components of good storytelling as you write. You're also going to gather information. Now, you might think, I have all the information, but if you're like most of us, it's in a million different places. You've got some on your computer, you've got sticky notes, you've got notes on the back of store receipts, you've got some voice recordings. It's just all over the place. So, you want to start gathering it together. And also, talk to family members, especially family elders, friends, people you used to know, because we don't always remember everything correctly. We think we remember the year and it was another year. We think we remember what song was played and it was something else. And so, of course, you've got people you can talk to. That's really the best resource ever. Doesn't mean you have to believe everything they say, but one thing we found is that when we're kids, people don't tell us everything. After we grow up, especially talking to family elders can be so valuable. It certainly helped me with my grandmother. I couldn't believe the story she told me when I started to ask. It was amazing. It really opened my eyes. And so you talk to people, you do research online, you jog your memory to make sure you've got everything as accurate as possible as you gather those bits and pieces. You also want to organize all of those stories. I like to do what's called storyboarding. I use sticky notes. You can use 3x5 cards. You can use pieces of paper. There are storyboarding software programs. I actually like doing it by hand because I sometimes like to take a sticky note and carry it around and think about it for a while. I have a big bulletin board in my office, but take each main point in your story and put it on a sticky note. It might be each chapter and then each section of each chapter. And that's what I like to do. And organize them so that you can stand back and look at them. And it's really amazing how often you'll see, oh, wait, there's a gap there. I didn't go from this point to this point without telling the reader what was going on. Or, well, I've got too much of the same information here. A couple of these sticky notes have to go. Or sometimes you'll see a theme that runs throughout your story. And especially, you might find your hook that you need to take out of the middle and stick at the top. That needs to be the beginning of your story. This really helps organize your thoughts and how it needs to go. So I encourage you to do that. Number 5, you're finally going to write your memoir. You would think you'd do this first. No, no, no. You have to get everything ready first. My memoir magic colleague, Dr. Catherine Gray White, says you need to write the first paragraph first, and secondly, you write the last paragraph. Once you do that, it's easy to fill everything else in. Now, if you've done that organizing and storyboarding, you already know what those are going to be, and your first paragraph will tie into your last. Catherine says, that your opening paragraph pulls the reader in and it gives them a promise. Your last paragraph fulfills that promise. And I'll tell you what, we found that people love to feel hope. They want to know, it doesn't have to be a yippee skippy Hollywood ending, but they want to know there's hope in this story. So you can let them know, here are the mistakes I made, here are my lessons learned. I hope you don't make the same mistakes. Or it can be, as I write this and as I read it, I'm figuring out that I still have a lot to learn, but I'm not going to give up. One way or another, you want to show the reader that there's hope in the story and there's a reason for them to have finished reading it. We've all read books before that we just want to throw across the room at the end because it's so depressing at the end. You don't want to do that. So you finally get to write your story, and step number 6 is to conclude the process. That means when you finish that last chapter, you're not done. There's more to consider. We have found that overwhelmingly, it's amazing how many others in your family, even your friends, do not want you to write your memoir, and they don't like it when you get done. You want to remind them that they have a right to their point of view. It's different from yours, but you have a right to yours as well. As writer Anne Lamott says, you own everything that happened to you. And you have a right to tell about it. And you have a right to keep that purpose close to your heart so that this will be something that you do not only for others, but it's something that you do most importantly for yourself. So in this conclusion, you're going to get ready for some pullback and get ready for some fallout. You're also going to be aware of making sure you didn't infringe upon any copyrights. That can happen with pictures or songs or poems or things you might have used that you may need to pull out. And in the end, though, you are going to reap the reward for yourself and for those who benefit from reading your memoir. All right, here's a review. You're going to know your purpose. You're going to understand good storytelling. You're going to gather information, organize that information, write that memoir, and conclude the whole process. We have a lot more details in our book, Memoir Magic. And so I hope these 6 easy, breezy steps have helped you get started with that. So go. I look forward to reading